western sky blushed crimson over Riverlands towers, as though the Tully trout had leapt free of the waters and stained the heavens itself. Edmure stood on the parapet, fingers curled around cold stone, letting the hush of evening settle upon him. Beneath, the tumblestone gave its perpetual murmur, a voice older than keeps or crowns. That gentle sound had soothed many a Tully child at cradle, yet tonight it only sharpened the throb behind his temples. War drums still echoed in his bones. Grief lay heavy as mail upon his shoulders. But in the hush, he could hear something else as well. A promise, faint but insistent. Like the river under ice, the Riverlands would not remain broken. He would not let them. Bootsteps approached. Brynden Blackfish, lean as a pike, halted a half-case behind him. A night breeze teased the old knight's dark hair, now streaked with winter. "You've scarcely slept," Brynden said, his voice low so the guards along the wallwalk would not overhear. "Even trout drown if they fight the current too long." Edmure managed a tired smile. "And pike ever swim upstream?" The blackfish's eyes glinted with wry approval. "Aye. Yet even the strongest fish knows to choose its waters. You called your captains at dawn, again at noon, and here we stand with dusk upon us. Will you declare your course before the moon climbs?" "I will," Edmure said. "But first, tell me true. If I summon them once more, will they come?" They rode at Rob's banners and lost sons, brothers, husbands. They bent knee to me when the crown of the north and trident lay in the ashes of the twins. But bending is not the same as believing. For every hearth still burns fear of what the Freys may do next. "When?" Brynden folded scarred hands across the pommel of his sword. "Fear seldom leaves a land scourged by treachery. Fear and fury are kin, though. Knit them rightly, and they march together. The lords will ride for you, nephew. Ride hard, if you give them more than vengeance. Give them vision." Edmure closed his eyes, breathing river air deep into his lungs. Vision. Door. He had seen it on parchment first, a raven from Lady Lysa Arryn, his own aunt by marriage, sealed in robin blue wax the very night he won his bride at the twins. The letter had nearly slipped his notice in the drunken haze of feast and new joys. Yet, there it was after the slaughter, tucked inside his bridal cloak, unbloodied amid gore. A plea for aid. No, a plea for trust, from the Eyrie. Words cold and lonely as an Ares peak. "I fear for my son, and for the Vale. Come if the worst befalls." The worst had indeed befallen, though not as she had meant it. Now the parchment lay smoothed across his solar table, its edges curled like a dried leaf. Every morning since his return to River Run he reread the words, and each time they spoke clearer. "I will give them vision," he murmured, "and the Vale will lend it wings." Brynden arched a brow. "You mean to cross the mountains?" "I mean to cross the twins first," Edmure answered, turning. "But not alone, and not with half-starved levies and shattered hearts. The Riverlands and the Vale share more than blood through mother. We share a need. The lords declarant circle the Eyrie like hawks around a crippled falcon. The Freys leer at our villages like wolves at fold. Unite these two wounds, and we may yet find the cure. Brynden, ride at dawn for Seaguard. Lord Mallister trusts you. Tell him every oar that can skim the trident is needed, but tell him also what no other has yet heard. There is strength awaiting us beyond the bloody gate." "Namer," the blackfish's smile cut thin and fierce. "And when I return?" "We cast the net," Edmure said, pulse quickening, wide enough to snare every last Frey. 3 days later, the great hall of Riverrun overflowed with lords, sworn swords, and hedge knights alike, the banners of their houses draped from rafters heavy with cobweb dust. Some came on crutches, some with empty sleeves pinned. Quiet resentment flickered among bright heraldry. Edmure watched them gather. Lord Jason Mallister of Seaguard, lean and silver-haired. Sir Mark Piper with laughter lines worn thin by grief. Dour Lord Vance of Atranta, and half a dozen minor river lords, whose keeps had burned in the wake of the red wedding reavings. When Edmure at last rose, conversation stilled like waters struck by frost. He wore no crown, only a lord's circlet of beaten silver. Yet in his eyes Brynden saw the glimmer of a different metal. Something forged anew in Heartbreak's fire. "My friends," Edmure began, voice steady, "we have stood upon too many pyres to count. Wives, children, brothers. Names tumble inside me day and night. Goodbrook Charlton, Hay, Butterwell, Keith. The stories are the same. A Frey host came riding, banners of blue and grey. Marriage bonds be damned. They burned, hanged, hacked, and when they left, they stole the bones. We were told, bend the knee, and the twins will spare you. Some bent, and still were flayed. Some fled, and still were found. We have no promises from Lord Walder that are not written in the blood of our kin." "Day." Silence thickened, broken only by the keening of wood in the rafters. Edmure steadied his breath. "I will have no more bargains with butchers' sons. The Trident's waters carry our dead. We must carry justice. But justice alone is not enough. I have waited to speak until I could speak in hope. That hope has flown to me on wings of snow. The Vale of Arryn is not blind to our plight, nor deaf to our call. Knights of the Eyrie remember still the pact between King Torhin Tully and Artys Arryn, forged when Falcon Aid saved fish from the lions upon our borders. Lord Nestor Royce, Keeper of the Bloody Gate, has written, if we stand, the Vale stands beside us. A murmur rippled the hall. Lord Vance's heavy brows drew together. "Fine words," he grunted. "But the Vale is hemmed by peaks. How do bright feathered knights cross the width of Westeros, when every pass may be watched?" Edmure lifted a rolled map. "By river and by road, under banners no Frey patrol will dare disturb. Ser Brynden has secured the Trident's mouth. Mallister galleys will carry Menhatharms north to Maidenpool, then upriver to Stonehenge. From there, we march with our own levies on one bank, while Vale Knights ride the other. The twins stand between us and Union. Yet the twins have 2 towers, and only one Lord Walder." Then Sir Mark Piper slapped a gauntlet on the trestle. "Split them. Seize the western bridge before dawn breaks on their eastern wall." A pincer closing around Lord Walder's throat. "Just so," Edmure said. "Riverrun is readied with stores for winter's teeth, but we strike before the first snows seal the passes. When the Freys call for aid, they will look to King's Landing. I have sound reason to believe the Lion Throne is less inclined to rescue its hound than once it was." He offered no more, but Brynden saw nods. Rumors of discord between Lannister and Tyrell, flickers of tension along the Gold Path. The realm teetered, swift blades might tip it. Lord Mallister rose next, voice carrying the tang of salt air. "My galleys sail within the week, stocked with grain quarrels alike. The Freys spit upon guest ride. Sea Guards' bells toll for them. Nimdal." Aggression cracked open cheers, yet Edmure raised a hand. "We are river folk. The river remembers kindness as well as cruelty. Break Walder's power, not his peasants' backs. Leave crops unburnt, children unharmed. The realm must see which banner shields common folk." Lord Vance grunted approval. "Let the Freys share in what they sowed. Steel for killers, mercy for the powerless." Agreements thundered. Pikes rattled the rushes. When the uproar subsided, Edmure spoke one final name. "Sir Edwin Frey remains heir. But speak the name of Riverlands and Vale joined in common cause, and see how quickly he scurries. Walder may hold a dozen sons. If they all ride to defend him, the twins will empty faster than a breached dam." "They'd." Laughter rolled, brittle yet sincere. Plans formed around tables, quills scratching until the moon climbed and candles guttered. At dawn, ravens burst outward into fog, black arrows pointing toward uprising. 9 nights later, along a moon-silvered stretch of the Green Fork, Lord Walder Frey's East Tower glowed with torch-cluttered windows like a hive alive with anxious bees. The twins' drawbridge had been raised since midday, spiting traders who begged passage. On the western bank, a merchant's garish encampment sprawled, a patchwork of wagons draped in canvas. Peddlers' flags snapped in wind. but the scent rising from their cook fires was wrong for any caravan. An iron tang, masked by fresh ground spices. Within a crimson-striped pavilion, Brynden Blackfish tightened the strap of his brigandine. "My brother's son should be commanding this assault," he muttered. Edmure, seated at a camp table strewn with carved tokens, shook his head. "Rob was not my brother's son. He was mine to follow, not replace. Still I feel him watching." "As do I," the Blackfish said. "Let us make him proud." Outside, hooves stamped. Knights of House Corbray donned pale cloaks, embroidered with falcons. Their lord, Lyn Corbray, toyed with Lady Forlorn's pommel, eager for a fight. He had ridden from the Eyrie down the high road with 300 lances, the Vale's vanguard. More would come. Edmure scouts whispered of Royce banners glinting in passes yet unseen. Trumpets lowed like distant cattle. Mallister galleys disgorged troops upstream, leaving hulls lightened for swift retreat. Pitch-dark barges floated silent beyond the bend, their oars muffled. When the moon reached its height, Edmure Tully strode from the pavilion. "Signal the ferryman," he told Sir Mark Duck. Beneath swaying lanterns along the bank, hooded forms hoisted green-shuttered lanterns, raising then plunging lamps thrice. Across the water, identical flashes answered from a cluster of rocks where none had been the night before. Boats slipped from gloom, cutting ripples toward the western shore. The Vale's light cavalry, footmen, and archers spilled ashore and melted into hedgerows, invisible as nightingales. The second hour before dawn, drizzle hissed on Pea's shields. Brynden's scouts returned. A river gate along the twins' west tower had been left unwatched in Lord Walder's certainty. No host could muster beneath his nose so swiftly. "Their eyes still look south," the Blackfish said, "expecting lions, not trout and falcons." Edmure touched his uncle's elbow. "Then let us show them river teeth and sky talons." The assault opened, not with a trumpet, but a song. A single horn from the merchant camp rose, thin as sorrow. It keened across fields, and torches within the Freys' windows flickered in alarm. By the time a second horn followed, Vale archers were already under the west tower walls, grapples biting stone. Crossbow quarrels hissed from arrow slits, yet many clanged against bronze-rimmed shields. Scaling ladders kissed crenelles. Above, shouts tangled with screams as the first falcon banners unfurled upon the battlements. On the causeway that joined towers, Sir Lyn Corbray led a wedge of knights armored in dawn-pale steel. Lady Forlorn rose and fell, her edge ringing like chimes. Frey guards tumbled in halves. Corbray's shrill laughter echoed louder than their death cries. Behind him came Mallister men-at-arms, pikes lowered to sweep the stones clean, and Riverlands' foot following to hold what was taken. It happened too quickly for coherent defense. Lord Walder's forces, roused from half-slumber, found themselves divided by their own bridge. Yet victory was not bloodless. On the bridge's midpoint, Williman Frey rallied a pocket of halberdiers, locking shields into a turtle that ground forward with grim resolve. Corbray hammered at them. Twice he fell back. Edmure, still ashore, saw the advance and knew the moment demanded symbol. He vaulted onto his destrier, Trout's Fury, and spurred across planks slick with rain and gore. A rain of crossbow bolts darkened the sky. One glanced off his pauldron, another lodged in his horse's rump, but the beast powered on. Atop the shield wall, a Frey sergeant brandished a banner of twin towers. Edmure rose in stirrups, swung his long sword in an arc lit by lantern flame, and cleaved the banner's staff. The cloth fluttered into the river, vanishing. Thunderous cheers swallowed the bolt that lodged in his cuisse. The shield wall broke. Williman, bleeding from thigh and brow, surrendered his sword. Edmure wheeled, his breath ragged, and found Corbray grinning like a man offered wine. "A bold charge, Lord Tully." Edmure pointed eastward toward the second tower, where alarm bells clamored. "Boldness must double," he said. "Hold this span. No Frey crosses it save in chains." "Davsoanan?" The dawn painted clouds purple, when Edmure at last braced his back against a merlin, staring across the intervening waters at the still gun-captured east tower. From its ramparts, Frey archers loosed futile shafts. Few flew farther than Rivermid. but the drawbridge remained up, twin gates barred. Breaking it would require siege towers or boats, a battle for another day. Yet Edmure felt neither dread nor haste. The vital half was taken. Supplies bound for the Freys could not reach them while the Vale and Trident held western banks. Walder's face, he imagined, must be twisted like dried leather in fury at the affront. Lynn Corbray joined him, wiping Lady Forlorn. "Your uncle says you will not press on today." "I will not," Edmure confirmed. "Let Lord Walder stew in hunger and uncertainty. Every hour he wonders whether his East Tower stands alone. He loses ground within his own house. A siege, then. A siege, but of mines as well as walls. And beyond this river stand greener peaks." Corbray's eyes glinted. "The Erie will send more men when snows permit. Royce and Belmore ride yet. But you mean something else?" "Ian." Edmure nodded toward the road that wound northeast. "The twins sit upon trade. If we tip that balance, open safe passage under our joint banners, then streams of grain and silver will bypass Frey tolls altogether. Walder starves without ever seeing us climb his stone." Corbray sheathed the Valerian blade. "I think I shall like following your war." Word of the river breach raced on raven wings across the Vale sky. At Runestone, bronze-helmed Lord Jan Royce gathered his household. "The fish calls," he said, "and our forebears remember the debt." Bronze horns sounded from every hill fort. Mountain clans, paid in bread and pardons, descended to fight for the falcon and the trout as they once had Artie's Arryn. By fortnight's end the high roads were alive with disciplined columns, banners whipping, Royce's bronze falcon, Belmore's crossed hammers, Harding's winged tower. They marched not toward the neck, but toward River Run, promising to weave river and mountain threads into a single cord around Frey throats. Meanwhile, Edmure worked to mend fissures among his own lords. At Derry he halted, calling before him Sir Raymond Derry, whose fields had borne Lannister fires. "You were wronged," Edmure told him. "Yet no red lion pays your small folk. Let us instead rebuild. Seed for seed, plow for plow. The Vale brings grain enough to feed twice our harvest." He signed parchments granting tariffs forgiven, seed stores opened. Seeing such terms, Derry's face melted from suspicion to tear-choked gratitude. With each lord thus soothed, Edmure found thread for a broader tapestry. Roads repaired, ferries established, patrols of mixed Vale and river knights, riding fanwise to root out Frey raiders who slipped the sea. In the captured western tower, Bryndon oversaw fortification. "Dig trenches here," he barked. "Barb these stakes. I want boiling pits ready for pitch within the week. Walder may yet attempt to retake his half-bridge." But days trickled by without challenge. The East Tower's gates remained shut, its walls bristling, yet no sortie came. Rumor claimed old Walder's sons argued over whether to ransom peace or call on Casterly Rock. Casterly Rock minted coin for its own quarrels now. A lion short on gold roars softer. One crisp dawn Edmure rode among tents and spotted an eagle-wing banner. House Waynwood. Lady Anya Waynwood herself, stern and steel-haired, waited astride a chestnut courser. She dismounted the instant she spied him. "Lord Tully," she said, removing a mailed glove. "I have ridden 9 days from Ironoax to join this cause, leaving my grandson to rule. I will not be denied lead in the center when next you take the field. Men, I would sooner place the center in no safer hands," Edmure replied, bending to kiss her knuckles. "You honor us. Honor is soothed by action." Her gaze drifted to the East Tower beyond the swelling river. "Has Walder answered your terms?" "I sent none." Lady Anya's smile was like frost in sun. "Then let the message speak in silence." That silence broke 1 week after the new moon. Edmure paced the ramparts, while dawn mist clung to stone. A distant horn brayed from the East Tower's roof. 3 notes, long, short, long. His guards raised bows, scanning for boats. None emerged. Yet a shape appeared at the midspan between towers, guided by hands unseen. A wicker cask, pendulous from a long pole, extended across the gap. Inside the cask, bundled in rough-spun, lay a severed hand. Edmure's gout clenched. Frey jest or threat? He could not tell. A herald beneath raised the cask higher, shouting hoarsely. Lord Walder would parley. 1 hour past noon, upon the bridge center. Banner of truce. Or we send more pieces. The blackfish spat over the parapet. Pieces of whom? One of his own bastards. Edmure's eyes narrowed at the pale flesh. The hand bore a silver ring inlaid with emerald chips. Sigil of House, Just of the Westerlands. A hostage, he guessed. A Westerlord come to treat and found himself treacheried instead. Walder sends us lion bones hoping we fear Lannister reprisal. Brynden snorted. Let him find lions first. Still, Edmure agreed to parley. Noon found him upon the bridge where his sword stroke had felled the Frey banner. He wore no helm, only a circlet, symbol of trust. Across, Lord Walder did not come. Instead waddled Ryman Frey, cheeks flushed with wine. He carried a white flag nibbled at the corners by river damp. 2 guards flanked, hands on sword hilts. Edmure, Ryman barked, spittle shining in his mustache. You break guest right seizing my father's halls. Withdraw at once and beg pardon, or face bands of traitor. Edmure listened without expression until the last word. Your father broke guest right first. Ryman's red divined eyes twitched. The late Lord Walder does as he wills. Now he wills that you starve upon his shores. And no. Behind Edmure stood Brynden, Lady Anya, and Lyn Corbray. Edmure spoke softly, each syllable measured as an oarsman's stroke. I have 20,000 bushels arriving by keelboat this very eve. Food enough to feed my men and your peasants alike. Peasants, you have denied bread while you feast behind barred gates. He inclined his head toward the east tower. Yield that tower, Ryman, and every soul within may depart unharmed. Refuse, and the river itself will rise to claim you. I will dam your moats, flood your cellars, drown the rats before the lords. Nen. Carried across water, Ryman's laugh came brittle. Threatened floods to a Frey? We own the gates. You did, Edmure replied. Now the gates answer to iron. I have sunk half a league upstream. Rosby smiths wrought them. 1 lever releases. When I pull, the green fork swells. Perhaps your tower stands, perhaps not. But every stoop and storeroom below your donjons will fill with silt and rot. How long before dysentery does my work? The silence between them felt like a blade's edge. At length, Ryman licked cracked lips. I will convey your terms. Do so swiftly. Nightfall seals them. That eve, sheltered under torchlight, Edmure wrote a brief letter to Lysa Arryn. Brynden watched the quill dance. To my lady aunt, Edmure read aloud when finished. The river and the Vale draw tighter with each tide. The Frey's teeth loosen. When next raven wings slice the sky, they shall carry news of bridges whole and hearts mended, or of towers toppled and traitors undone. Whatever the morrow brings, know that your nephew holds faith, as fish to water, falcon to wind. Signed, Edmure Tully, Lord Paramount of the Trident. He sanded the ink, folded the parchment. Let none intercept this, he told the maester, who hurried off. From beyond canvas walls rose distant shouts. Vale men singing marching song. Riverfolk drums beating steady. Edmure listened until they merged into a single cadence. It was the sound of many voices, becoming one. Brynden laid a hand on his shoulder. Robb would have smiled to see this day. He may yet see more, Edmure said, lifting weary eyes. Our war is only seeded. Tomorrow we water it with change. Now. Dawn sharpened steel on steel. Ryman Frey returned under truce with quavering knees. Lord Walder consents, he said, thrusting a document sealed in blue-gray wax dotty. The western tower to remain yours, tolls to be shared, captives exchanged. But the east tower stands under Frey command, and you withdraw your Vale allies within a fortnight. Edmure read the lines. Unacceptable. The east tower falls into neutral oversight, my uncle Brynden and Lord Nestor Royce, to guarantee passage free of Frey meddling. Frey forces withdraw 30 leagues in every direction, ceding fenlands to houses despoiled. Only then will toll negotiations begin. Nenstapur. Ryman gaped as though slapped. You bargain as if you hold both towers. I hold trust, Edmure said. Every trader from Duskendale to White Harbor will sail past Frey porches if trust returns. Without it, the twins are two useless towers squatting on a stinking fort. Negotiations stretched until sun crowed overhead. At last Ryman departed to consult his father once more. He did not return nor send a raven. That night, Edmure ordered the lever drawn. Upstream, chains rattled, timbers groaned, and the river rose. Within the east tower, watchers saw water lap at footings. Barrels floated from storerooms, rats scuttled for stairs. Walder's sons shouted for engineers long dead. Panic spread like mold. By day's end, a white banner fluttered from the highest turret. Edmure accepted surrender personally. Walder Frey did not appear. Frail, they said, fevered, muttering of knives at weddings. His heir Edwin knelt, cheeks pale beneath thin mustache. We yield the tower, Edwin murmured, and pledge no tolls shall be levied without assent of Riverlands lords. Nor of the Vale, Edmure added. Edwin swallowed and nodded. The combined banners of Tully and Arryn rose over the twins as ravens spiraled through overcast sky. Peasants gathered at muddy riverbanks, staring wary yet wondrous. They approached odysseusly, accepted loaves from Vale wagons, fed children first. Edmure watched, heart full. The first mender's stitch in a rent realm had been sown. Yet beyond the bridge lay roads leading north toward Seaguard, south toward Harrenhal, and farther, King's Landing's gilded halls where whispers of Frey defeat already churned. The war for justice had only begun. In the quiet hush after the surrender, Edmure found a moment alone atop the east tower's roof. The sun dipped behind ragged clouds, casting copper across the floody swollen forks. He set hands upon weather-scored stone, felt river tremors within. Somewhere a heron cried. 5 hours, he thought. 5 days, 5 years. Time itself flowed like these waters, relentless yet yielding to patient shaping. He believed now, with marrow-deep certainty, that patience wedded to boldness might reshape all the 7 kingdoms. Let Freys and lions snarl, let crowns teeter. In the heart of Westeros, river and mountain had clasped hands, and in that clasp trembled promise, a nod of vengeance alone, but of new tides yet to surge. Edmure closed his eyes, letting wind ruffle auburn hair. A prayer stirred upon his lips, for Robb, for Cat, for every name swallowed by the water. Then he opened his eyes again, and their blue held not sorrow but spark. Tomorrow, ravens would fly. Tomorrow, the Vale's full host would march. Tomorrow, Tully justice would roll down each bend, unstoppable as spring thaw. But tonight he simply listened. To river, to wind, to the measured united heartbeat of his people, and allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Pai, Kandiyaga. Edmure descended from the eastern turret as dawn's first gray seeped across the river. The sky the color of a sword left too long in ashes. Below, the captured courtyard stirred. Vale men coiling ropes, Riverlanders rolling casks of grain toward makeshift kitchens that smoked with the promise of morning pottage. The hum of purposeful labor threaded the chill air, and for the first time since Riverrun's siege Edmure felt the hush of despair recede like fog before sun. He reached the old solar that had served generations of Freys, and found Brynden bent over campaign maps, lit by guttering tallow. The Blackfish looked up, eyes bright despite the sleepless night. "Ravens from Seaguard," he said without greeting, tapping parchment. "Jason Mallister reports Lannister outriders probing the coast road. Scouts say they wear no lion device, only gray cloaks, but the coin behind them smells of Casterly rock." Edmure leaned on the table, tracing inked roads that wound from the Twins to Harrenhal, then south toward the capital. "So Lord Tommen's hand tests our edges. Let them see how firm the bank is before they try the ford." His gaze lifted. "What of the Vale columns?" "Royce's bronze host enters the Trident by day's end," Brynden replied. "Waynwood and Belmore march 2 leagues behind. 5,000 spears, another 2,000 knights, with more pikemen trailing. Enough to make any lion think twice." Then here were some water. Enough, Edmure agreed, though his mind already leapt ahead where numbers alone could not reach. Yet, lions prefer shadows when claws dull. Sir Jaime once favored bold charges, but King's Landing teaches subtler venom. He will gamble on sowing doubt among our lords within the Vale, between me and Lady Lysa. He straightened. We answer not with whispers but with sight. Assemble the captains at noon. I want mixed patrols within every village for 50 leagues. A Corbray knight, sharing salt with a Vance bowman, tells a stronger tale than ravens ever could. Down. Bryndon's answering smile carved deep the lines at his eyes. Nephew. A tale they'll carry home. Edmure turned to the tall narrow window, watched river mist ghost above the flood. Have we word yet from Derry? Ravens perch upon his bailey, Raymond wrote. Bryndon said, scrapes for feed but will ride with us once the stores arrive. Then, send them, Edmure answered. Double the sacks Malister promised. Mercy travels faster than fear. Nabiaro. There, he called. He left the solar to the mutter of ink and steel, descending a spiral stair still damp from flood. Each stone step echoed the steady beat within his chest, a rhythm older than castles, older even than the conquest. Hope, hope. On the tower's lower level a makeshift infirmary had been established, pallets strewn beneath banners stripped from Frey walls now repurposed as linens. Wounded men slept or groaned softly, while healers drifted like quiet ghosts. Edmure paused beside a thick-muscled Vale sergeant whose bandaged thigh seeped pink. The man raised a trembling hand in salute. Edmure clasped it gently. Your courage opened the gate, he murmured. Rest now. The river and the mountain guard you. A spark of pride lit the surgeon's pain-dulled eyes. Edmure moved on, offering murmured thanks. Shared grief. Small promises. Until he emerged into the flooded courtyard where carpenters hammered new walkways across drowned cobbles. Sun-washed wake of early orisons hung crisp, and smoke curled from chimneys where barley porridge thickened for thousands. He breathed deeply, tasting ash, grain, hope. Beyond the outer wall, Waynwood outriders crested the northern rise. Their mail flashed like ripples. At their fore rode Lady Anya, back straight despite the fatigue of weeks on hard road. Edmure walked to meet her beneath the ruined barbican. She dismounted before the lower drawbridge and stripped a gauntlet to offer clasp. The tower surrendered, she said, eyes sweeping the flood-dark stones. So sings every wind off these flats. To you we owe part of its song, Edmure replied. You and those who rode with your banner when the passes were still rimed in frost. She studied him, gauging weight and metal. Call it debt repaid for the trident stand in Robert's war. The tide turns slow, but turn it does. A smile ghosted her stern mouth. Where floods break stone. What next for truces? Edmure gestured toward the sonorous courtyard. Food and mending first. Then we press south before Lannisters can muster. Lord Tywin is ashes, but House Lannister still shits gold and pays cutthroats handsomely. Not a down to face. Lady Forlorn hungers, murmured Lyn Corbray from behind, having appeared as though born of her shadow. A swift thrust at Harrenhal's back would gut their ambitions. Edmure turned. Perhaps. Yet Harrenhal is a tomb of curses. Better to let the lion waste men garrisoning it while we strangle his purse. The roads to King's Landing pass through Blackwater Rush. Capturing Harrenhal too soon invites siege on distant ground, far from aid. Our strength is union. We bleed if cut apart. No, our next stroke must draw more threads into our loom. Nenny Talandam. Lady Anya nodded approvingly. Corbray only twirled his mustache and shrugged, the glint in his eye suggesting eagerness for any blade work the day might bring. Edmure addressed them both. Ride with me at dusk. I would show the Vale delegation to Raventree Hall, seat of House Blackwood. Lord Tito's is cautious, but his ravens speak louder than his swords. If we secure his oaks, we secure the Red Fork Valley entire. The ride to Raventree took 3 days through lowlands, where summer's last grasses bent beneath stiff breezes. Autumn had painted willows along the river gold and russet. Vale knights in falcon helms kept pace with Riverland outriders, banners intermingling so thoroughly that children from scattered hamlets no longer pointed in wonder. They saluted as though the sight were old as hills. Edmure left small patrols at each village, sacks of rye and casks of salt fish, along with letters promising stable tolls and river escorts once harvest shipped. Everywhere they stopped, he listened. To quiet complaints, to rumors of missing kin, to whispered fears of Frey revenge. He answered each with the same calm steel. The twins had fallen. Justice marched. No Frey banner would fly again unless sewn unto a shroud. On the second night, they camped beneath the half-ruined sept of Seven Streams. Broken bell towers jutted like ribs against a starlit sky. Vale septons offered prayers for the fallen. Riverland singers answered with low laments for Robb, Stark, and Caitlin. Edmure sat apart on a moss-slick stone, watching sparks rise from campfires. He thought of his father, Hoster, and of his sister, wraith-like beneath the Red Wedding's river. He thought of Robb's crown drifting away on black current. A hand touched his shoulder. Lady Anya again. The steel of command lowered for a whisper of shared loss. "I buried a son after the trident," she said. "No grief fades, but it can feed purpose." He met her eyes, and in their dark depths he saw a mirror of his own determination. They spoke no more, but when she left, he felt a steadiness settle. Morning found the host marching beneath soft drizzle until Raventree Hall's titanic black-barked weirwood loomed ahead, white face carved with tears that glistened like pearls. Crows wheeled above the battlements, their cries echoing off ancient stones. Lord Tito's Blackwood greeted Edmure in the outer yard, flanked by sons and sworn archers clad in raven wing cloaks. His beard had grown silver since the Red Wedding. His eyes, however, shone bright behind exhaustion. "Edmure," he said, bowing but not kneeling. "You come with more banners than last we spoke." "I come as pledged, my lord," Edmure replied, visible relief crossing his face at the welcome's warmth. He introduced Lady Anya and Sir Lyn. They exchanged stiff courtesies. Titos gestured toward the hall. "Come, warm yourselves before the godswood hearth. My maester has brewed mulled wine." Within Raventree's timber-roofed hall, the hearth fire cracked bright behind screens carved with ravens in flight. Titos wasted no time on pleasantries. "We have all lost, Lord Tully. Some losses cannot be mended, but ravens perch on every branch of these woods. They whisper a chance to avenge. Speak." Edmure laid out the map he carried from Bryndon's Solar. With sure fingers he traced 3 routes, one hugging the Red Fork to Fairmarket, another cutting through woods to Oldstones, and a third skirting Harrenhal's cursed shadow before bending toward the Blackwater. "The Freys bleed, but are not slain," he said. "Their power flows from coin extorted at the twins and sold south for gold. If we choke that coin, if we make trade safer by river than by road, the Frey purse empties, and gold that cannot buy spears must soon buy bread. House Blackwood stands upon the river's spine. If your archers hold these banks, bandit hands dare not pluck travelers. The Vale galleys will patrol from Maidenpool to Lord Harroway's town. Between us, a corridor of trust grows." "Leon," Titos studied the parchment. "And you, my lord, march south in the meantime." "To the Whispering Wood," Edmure confirmed. "Not for battle, but counsel. There I have invited every minor house that bent knee after the Red Wedding and every common captain who fought for Robb. Under Weirwood shade, we will craft a covenant. River, Vale, and Oak, bound by oaths older than Ironman raids. With that covenant we stand before any crown unbowed." Lady Anya set her gauntlet on the map's edge. "And should Tommen's hand answer with swords? Then those swords will meet twin shields." Titos replied before Edmure could speak, his voice rich with sudden conviction. He extended an arm. The raven wing cloak cascaded like midnight. "Raventree stands with Riverrun. What is sung by river and vale shall echo through every Blackwood grove." So it was bound. Edmure and Lady Anya drank Titos's mulled wine, mixed with ash from the godswood brazier, sealing vows with a bitter swallow as old as the north's snow. Corbray snorted at the taste, but drank all the same, eyes gleaming. Before leaving Raventree, Edmure walked among the hall's weirwood roots and set a single carved trout of ashwood at their base. He whispered, "Cat's name, Robs, Pelisa's unborn child," and finally one he rarely dared voice. Jane, his own yet unmet daughter within the walls of Casterly Rock. The prayer hung like mist amid branches. The ravens overhead stilled their croaks as though listening. The covenant gathering in the whispering wood drew thrice the numbers Edmure anticipated. Under the towering oaks where once King in the North had snared Jaime Lannister, new pavilions bloomed in every hue. The green seahorse of House Mooton, the crossed pitchforks of House Goodbrook, even the cream and blue of Pie Lord Paimon, whose lines Edmure barely recalled save through ledgers of past harvest time. They came not merely to witness, they came ready. Spears stacked, kettle drums hung, smiths clanging at portable forges. In a glade Edmure established a circle of standing stones hauled from river shallows, one for each great house present. Tully, Arryn, Blackwood, Mallister, Piper, Vance, Mooton, and others smaller but proud. He stepped between them as day waned, torches guttering gold. Around the ring, lords and free sword captains alike stood shoulder to shoulder. Edmure spoke without platform, voice borne by hush. Here, 3 summers passed. King Rob chose cunning over fury, and captured a lion with woven roots. The lion escaped, taking my king's life soon after. Yet roots remain, roots deeper than swords. If lion or wolf or falcon forgets its place, the forest will swallow it. That forest is us. Our oaths shall be these roots. He raised a dagger of river-forged steel, pricked his palm, and let drops patter the moss. Without hesitation Brynden, Lady Anya, Lord Tydos, Jason Mallister, and each lord in turn repeated the cut. Blood melted into earth, crimson watering ancient bark. Sir Lyn Corbray followed last, though no lord, and when he sliced palm his eyes shone bright as Valyrian steel. "Some men," he drawled, "bind themselves for coin. I bind for sport. Frey flesh lies yet uncut enough." Then sir. Laughter rippled, easing tension like loosened cuirass straps. Edmure motioned to a young septon of 7 streams, who stepped forward bearing a scroll. The Covenant of River and Vale, penned by maesters appointed impartial. Its clauses named guest right wholly under pain of exile, forbade toll extortion without legal consent, fixed grain prices for famine seasons, and declared any who spilled covenant blood beneath banner of crown or castle an enemy to all. Each lord pressed wax seal before moon climbed high. When last ribbon cooled, Edmure lifted the scroll to torchlight. "By these words we are one. Let the kings beyond our waters heed. Should they raise sword against one, they wake all." Shouts erupted, swords scabbarded against shields until wood echoed like thunder. Fireflies rose in swirling constellations above torches. The glade seemed draped in living stars. Musicians struck strings, dancers whirled. But Edmure kept apart, mind still forging plans. Even as music pulsed, he sought the quiet path between shadowed bowls, until he found Brynden cleaning a dagger under moonlight. "Uncle," Edmure began, voice low, "tomorrow ride for salt pans. Lord Mooton's maester warns of sell-sail vessels bearing strange banners anchored in the lagoon, red fox on green. I fear Bravosi corsairs hired by Frey coin. If they beach, they could raid the river's mouth, disrupt shipments before they reach Mallister's galleys." Brynden wiped blade dry. "I will ride tonight with 50 of Corbray's knights, they thirst yet." A tired grin. "What of you?" "I ride west, to Fairmarket," Edmure answered. "Reports place a Frey levy gathering there under Sir Stevron's bastard. If true, he means to march on Seaguard's flank or up the Blue Fork. I'll not leave our back door latch less." Brynden sheathed dagger. "See that you take rest, nephew. War is long and trout swim best barnacled to wisdom." Edmure smiled faintly at the mangled proverb. "And pike always find deeper water." They clasped forearms, blood-soaked bandages squelching between. Then Blackfish vanished into oaken dark. Edmure's ride to Fairmarket began before dawn's haze, Vale outriders flanking, Tully bowmen ahead. The land here bore scorch scars from past Lannister harryings. blackened farmsteads, orchards cut to stumps. Yet along the roadside signs of renewal sprouted. Fresh-tilled furrows, charred beams rebuilt into cottages. Children watched the column pass with cautious hope, waving crudely painted fish on sticks. Edmure ran often to toss candies or copper stars. Each gleeful squeal a stone in Walter Frey's shoe. Near midday, the scouts captured a pale youth skulking in thicket, wearing patched Frey colors under muddy cloak. Dragged before Edmure, the boy shook like autumn leaf. "Name," Edmure demanded. "Ben Freys' squire, my lord," he stammered. "Merritt's grandson, if it please. Sent to ride east, find if Frey banners still flew over bridge." His voice cracked. Edmure's gaze softened. No older than 15, too young for red wedding yet branded by its stain. "What force in fair market?" "And no force," the lad whispered. "Sir Stevron's bast. Sir Rhaegar Frey sailed 300 men from Derryport south, 3 days past, heading for Maidenpool. Said river scum could rot. Only a garrison of 50 left to hold the toll house. Matched Maine. 50, murmured Lady Anya riding abreast. Hardly a storm." Edmure nodded to a piper bannerman. "Bind him gently, keep him fed. He may yet choose brighter colors." To his host he raised voice. "Spears at rest. We ride to liberate, not burn." Cheer answered. They arrived at dusk to find Fairmarket's shutters barred. The town's timber palisade bore Frey banners fluttering listlessly, yet the gates stood ajar. Edmure sent truce riders who returned unopposed. Within, they found the toll house abandoned, benches overturned, fires still warm. Its defenders gone into night's cloak. Townfolk crept from homes. Bakers, net-makers, farriers. An elder stepped forward, voice quivering. "We bear no love for twins, lord. They bled us for coin, hanged any who withheld. Take what toll house holds, our blessing rides with it." Edmure ordered Tully and Vale men to stack Frey ledgers, chests, scales, coin dies into wagons. In the square, he read aloud a new charter. "Fair markets toll hereby have for riverborne goods, abolished for small folk, under guardianship of the covenant." He handed the elder a sealed copy. Applause rolled like tide. Vale knights distributed bread, piper fiddlers struck lively tune. Before long lanterns glimmered and laughter pealed. That night, Edmure walked along river docks, staring east, where water shimmered, silvery. He thought of the boy squire bound safe in camp. His family's crimes shackled to his thin wrists. Was clemency strength, or risk? He felt Caitlyn's voice whisper, "Mercy wins hearts, hearts win wars." He would trust in that. A distant bell tolled once. Seaguard's tower, faint on evening air. Mallister's signal for sail sighting. Edmure's pulse quickened. He summoned courier ravens. "Frey fleet southbound. Mallister prepare." Then he returned to camp, mind spinning lines of defense, yet heart still steady. The covenant had roots. Storms might sway trunks but would not uproot. A week later, messengers from Saltpans reached him with tidings both grim and grand. Bronze Jan Royce and the Blackfish had routed corsairs before they touched shore. In head-on charge across tidal flats, Vale heavy horse crushed sail ranks. The survivors fled to ships only to meet Mallister galleys rams. Royce's nephew Sir Robar fell, but the corsair threat died with him. Edmure mourned one more name, then penned condolences to Lady Royce, promising the bronze falcon would fly over Saltpan's walls, in honor forevermore. Even as letters flew, new worry brewed. Word spread of Tommen's court, dispatching Sir Jaime, with 5,000 Westermen to ensure peace upon the Trident and protect free commerce. Lannister gold, though tarnished, could still hire footpads aplenty. Edmure assembled his captains under moonlit boughs of the Whispering Wood, telling them, "We will not be baited into field battle of their choosing. Jaime must pass through territory that feeds from our purse. We tighten that purse until his men starve or desert." He ordered supply wagons withdrawn inland, villages evacuated behind stout palisades built of felled oaks, each ringed with archers. Paths were flooded, bridges dismantled, leaving only hidden fords known to Blackwood scouts. The land itself became shield. Vale engineers, masters of mountaintop sieges, set to work on portable scorpions mounted to river barges, able to slip along silent waters and loose quarrels at any column-hugging riverbanks. Riverlords lent woodsmen to fashion false roads marked by carved stones that led into bogs. Rumors of wolf packs rode those bogs, tales seeded by Edmure's spies, driving fear into advancing sellswards, unused to fence chill sting. Yet Edmure refused to let defensive war define the covenant. He chose one offensive stroke for each shield raised, subtle as drifting leaf. A dozen letters departed secretly to the Stormlands, to Tarth, and to Baratheon bannermen, still chafing under Lannister debts. Ravens winged to Dorne, where bitter memories of Elias' children cried for redress. He wrote not as usurper, but as wounded husband whose bride's kin lay betrayed in the very castle where Dorne's princess died. "We ask no crown," he wrote, "only truth. That guest right reigns above all, lest no table be safe in any realm." Some replied cautious but warm, others silent. Seeds again, needing rain. Mid-autumn's chill arrived when Jaime's van finally pushed past Harrenhal and entered Blackwood lands. Scouts sighted the crimson banner with golden lion prowling along the main road. Edmure stood on Fairmarket's walls, watching dust plume miles distant. He felt strangely calm. Beside him Lady Anya adjusted gauntlets. "The king's lair thinks to splinter saplings," she said, not noticing the forest stands. "Let us show him," Edmure answered. Their plan unfurled as dusk deepened. Mallister's barges, hidden upriver, drifted silently with current. On board, Blackwood archers knocked arrows dipped in pitch, flames cupped by iron lanterns. At prearranged whistle they loosed. Fiery comets arced toward Lannister supply trains lumbering along the bank. Oxen bellowed. Wagons burst into conflagration. Panic rippled through columns. Even as Jaime's outriders wheeled to confront barges, Vale scorpions sprung from concealed gullies on opposite bank, bolts skewering horses, scattering ranks. Trumpets shattered night. Horses screamed. Edmure's ground forces did not charge. They melted back into woods once fire served purpose. By dawn the lion host staggered on half rations. Wagons charred husk. Jaime grew cautious. He broke his 5,000 into smaller companies to forage beyond road. That splintering served Edmure's second gambit. Blackwood longbowmen striking from tree lines. Piper outriders snatching captains for ransom. Each skirmish minor. Each cost lions blood and morale. Still, Jaime did not falter. On a rain-slick morning he set camp near the ruins of Old Stones, raising makeshift palisades, sending messages demanding parley. Edmure debated. Brynden counseled caution. Lady Anya argued for swift acceptance. Better to look him in the eye than let rumors speak. She offered to accompany. Edmure agreed. They rode under banner of truce toward Old Stone's limestone curtain wall, now crumbled to knee-height. Jaime met them wearing weather-stained crimson cloak over gilded breastplate. His hair, once bright gold, had darkened with grime. The beard on his jaw bore flecks of gray. He greeted Edmure with curt nod. "Lord Tully, I scarcely recognized you behind Covenant wall of trout and falcon." "Sir Jaime, I'd have known you even were your cloak black," Edmure replied evenly. He dismounted. Rain spattered both. Jaime surveyed the 24 knights to either side. "I not to shed more blood, though I will if forced. The king desires peace. Lift your levies, swear fealty, and Tommen will confirm your lordship of the Trident. Nasayan. Peace offered by a blade held at throat is seizure, not treaty," Lady Anya said. "Forgive my lady," Jaime replied with dry smile. "Yet I see no blade here, only men starving in mud." Edmure studied the lion camp. Fires sputtered low, armor dulled, half the horses gaunt. "Your supply train burns leagues behind," he said. "Another week on quarter rations and your men will gnaw boot leather." Jaime's jaw tightened. "Past here lies the King's Road and Lannisport, silver. Do you believe fish and falcon can bar a lion from his den? Dan nice call. If that lion has lost his teeth, Lady Anya murmured. A flicker of anger crossed Jaime's emerald eyes, but it cooled into something heavier. Weariness. Guest right was broken, he said, voice low. I cannot mend that. But vengeance grows like wildfire. Consume all friend and foe. Let me ride to the twins, bring Walder to justice under Crown's warrant. In return you disband Vale host, return each house to seat. Allow commerce without rapine. Edmure tasted the words. Could Lannister justice be trusted? Jaime had argued once for honor within madness. Yet his sister's webs still snared the capital. He thought of Catelyn freeing Jaime for her daughters, and the red wedding that followed. I will not hang hope upon broken showers, he said. Prove your intent. Deliver Walder alive to Riverrun for trial under Covenant terms, with Lannister gold funding reparations to every Riverlord family slain. Do this, and we shall stand down arms against the Crown. Fail, and the Covenant will see Walder down and any who shield him. Jaime considered, brow furrowed. Rain dripped from his nose. You ask near impossibility, he said, almost to himself. Walder trusts no one. He will not leave his tower save feet first. Then carry him so, Lady Anya offered darkly. A wry grin tugged Jaime's mouth, then faded. I will take these terms to the Queen. His green eyes lifted to Edmure. But no, Cersei sees each concession as weakness. She may refuse. Then the river will answer the lioness, Edmure said. He extended gloved hand. Jaime clasped with golden prosthetic, its cool metal jarring. They parted without further ceremony. Back within his own camp, Edmure pondered. Brynden called the bargain fool's hope. Corbray cursed missed chance for duel. But Lady Anya placed faith. Jaime is a lion striving to shed bloody pelt. If he fails, we lose nothing not already vowed. Edmure nodded, though unease coiled inside. Winter's first frost silvered leaves when a raven arrived from King's Landing, wings ragged. The note bore King Tommen's seal, though hand script. The Crown would consider trial under Crown's oversight at Riverrun if Covenant dissolved before winter. Reparations would be discussed, once peace restored. No guarantee, no timeline. A gambit to buy respite for Lannisters, nothing more. Edmure gathered the Covenant's lords at Seaguard's airy audience hall. Waves crashing beyond seawall. He read aloud the letter. Grumbling surged, curses flew. Lady Anya's gaze hardened like new ice. They seek to bleed our patience, she said. We answer with iron. Jason Mallister slammed fist on oaken board. My galleys sail tomorrow for the crag. Lannisport must feel hunger as we have. Edmure raised hand. We strike, yet measured. Mallister. Blockade, but do not sack. Bronze Yon Royce and the Blackfish move to cut Gold Road west of Harrenhal. Totwood secures remaining fords. Our archers harry any Lannister foraging parties. Let the Crown taste scarcity and recall how guest right once fed them. Meanwhile, we summon the North. Dei. A hush. The North, repeated Lady Anya. Aye, Edmure said. Word whispers of young Lord Rickon, Stark declared true heir by Manderley and Umber. If we present Covenant united with Northern honor, we create a wall stretching from eerie snows to last hearth's ice. A wall no lion leaps. Malhar. Brynden exhaled. Wonder and dread mingling. That task demands envoy bold. I will go, Edmure said. Protests erupted. Lady Anya slammed pommel to flagstone. We cannot spare you. You must, Edmure replied. The Covenant stands because River and Vale place trust in fish. That trust will open northern hearts still grieving Robb. I ride with small guard across neck before Snow's seal moat, Kaelin. In my stead, uncle, you command Covenant armies. Lady Anya commands Vale host. Seeing resolve etched deep, dissent quieted. Anya gripped Edmure's forearm. Return swift, trout lord. Rivers still run without fish, but they feel the loss. He smiled. And mountains echo emptier without falcon's cry. The departure dawn broke rose gold. Edmure, clad in mail beneath fur-lined cloak, mounted Trout's fury once more. Beside him rode Ser Desmond Grell, Ser Mark Piper, and a dozen picked bowmen. Brynden stood by the gate, face stern but proud. "I taught you to swim swift," he said softly. "Now swim sure." Edmure touched his brow in farewell. Then the portcullis rattled up, and the party trotted beyond Seaguard's surf-sprayed arch. Behind, banners rippled along walls. Trout, falcon, raven, bronze falcon, seahorse crossed pitchforks. They watched until riders dwindled to specks along the coast road north. Autumn wind carried salt tang and faint gull cries. Brynden turned to Lady Anya. "Well, my lady, shall we begin bleeding lions?" She gave a crisp nod. "Arrow by arrow. And when the north wind blows, we'll hear winter's chorus sung by covenanted hearts." Her gaze lifted to gray horizon where clouds gathered. "Let Tommen's hand and Cersei's claws scratch. They'll find riverstone, not flesh." Nefsen. Together, they strode towards strategy tents, where maps awaited fresh ink and winter's war yet to come. The road north grew wilder each mile. Villages thinned, replaced by sprawling marsh where reeds sighed beneath ghost-white sky. Fires burned at night only inside lidded lanterns, lest peat bogs reveal their light. Wolves howled often. Once a pack shadowed them until dawn. Eyes glinting amber beyond fire glow. Edmure rode silent, memories threading past. Journeys with Rob, laughter with Cat. The hush of trees before whispering wood ambush. Those ghosts guided him like hidden hands. At Moat Cailin, he found dust and ruin. Ironborn still haunted tower shells, the War of Five Kings ended. But Edmure carried letters bearing both Arryn and Blackwood seals. With promises of grain trade through Maidenpool, the Ironborn captain allowed passage. North of the neck, early snows whitened pines. A raven from White Harbor met them, inviting audience with Lord Wyman's heir Davos Seaworth, steward, in his lord's absence. Edmure's party detoured eastward, skirting ice-edged lakes. Within White Harbor's great merman's court, Davos greeted Edmure with weathered smile. Long has the North awaited true news of the Trident. Many here still curse Frey names in evening prayers. He accepted Edmure's covenant copy, nodding slow. Wyman himself fosters Rickon at Widow's Watch. He will wish to read these clauses. Over bread trenched with honeyed fish stew, they spoke of grain shortages, of Bolton wolves gnawing northern flocks, of travelers whispering a man in shadows, forging alliances, Stannis Baratheon, perhaps, or something older. Edmure offered barge convoys come spring, exchanging northern lumber for river barley. Davos clasped his hand in pledge. From White Harbor they journeyed west toward Last River, escorted by stout, manderly knights. Crossing snow-choked hills, they reached Widow's Watch as pale auroras flickered green across night sky. Inside its wind-swept granite halls, Edmure at last knelt before Lord Wyman, his girth formidable even beneath sable pelts, and before a boy of shaggy dark hair and gray eyes fierce as dusk. Rickon Stark stood leaner than Edmure recalled Bran, but strength coiled in his stance. At his feet crouched an immense white direwolf, whose crimson gaze studied every movement. Edmure rose. "Lord Rickon," he said gently, "I served your brother and wept for him. The Riverlands bleed still, yet rivers remember the wolf's howl with honor. I bring union of fish and falcon. Will wolf lend voice?" Rickon's brow furrowed, searching words unused. He looked to Wyman, who nodded encouragement. The boy stepped forward, resting small hand on the direwolf's neck. "If Freys hurt river folk, wolf bites back," he said bluntly. "Will you help find who hurt my brother?" Edmure's throat tightened. "Aye, the Covenant seeks trial for Walder Frey. But Lion King's mother shields him. With northern weight we may force their hand." Rickon stared deep, as though seeing marrow. Finally he nodded once. The direwolf huffed, plume of breath in cold air. Wyman exhaled relief. "Then so it shall be. The North will join Covenant come spring. Once passes clear. Meantime, we send ravens to clans. A slow thaw yet yields mighty flood." That night, Edmure dreamed of Tully trout, leaping across frozen stream into sky, where falcons circled and wolves howled. The sound reverberated like drums, and he awoke certain the realm's axles had shifted. South of Moat Caelan winter battered Jaime's host. Starved and harried, the Lion Lord withdrew toward Harrenhal. Half his men deserting to seek warmth in river hamlets now closed to them. Bryndon's riders escorted those deserters in groups to soup camps rather than gallows. Each bowl of broth turned sword away from Lannister muster. Lady Anya pressed advantage, capturing entrenchments along the Gold Road, seizing casks of wine that once filled Casterly Rock's coffers and distributing to Riverland orphan houses. Tales of falcon generosity spread to Westerland commons. Tax collectors found doors barred. Mallister galleys blockading Lannisport did more than starve port. They ferried dissident merchants to Seaguard, where Edmure, still in north, had promised tax forgiveness. Gold shifted coffers silently. Casterly Rock awoke to discover its own merchants funding the Covenant. Within King's Landing, Cersei seethed. Letters to Walder Frey demanding renewed offense went unanswered. The old goat had taken ill, his heirs bickering behind sealed gates now half garrisoned by Royce men, pending trial. Her council fractured. Paxter Redwine argued for fleet relief to Westerlands but refused while Tyrell armies still camped beyond city. On frostbitten nights, flickers of wildfire green tinted dreamscapes. In small folk taverns whisper began, "What is guest right worth? If not even crown defends it. Perhaps the Trout Lord better king than boy." The faith militant, emboldened by moral clarity of covenant, preached sermons on sacred bread and salt. Cersei felt walls closing like jaws. Late winter's waning moon hung above Riverrun, when snow-caked riders galloped through gate, bearing Edmure's sigil. Bryndon strode from Great Hall, cloak whipping. A scroll was pressed to his glove. The North had pledged. He read by torches hiss. At last, he raised face to Lady Anya, descending battlement steps. "The wolf runs with trout and falcon," he said, voice hoarse. Anya's laughter rang crisp as steel on frost. "Then rivers will flood come spring, and lions drown." Bryndon closed eyes, imagining Edmure riding south through snows, Covenant scroll bearing Rickon's paw print seal tucked close to his heart. "We must ready," he said. They summoned lords to Riverrun's hall. Fire roared as Blackwood, Mallister, Piper, Vance, Mooton gathered. Bryndon stood where Edmure once had, voice resonant. "Spring melts roads soon. With North pledged, we march to Twins for trial. Walder will stand before gods and men or fall. Lannister host lies crippled. Stannis stirs, Stormlands, Dorne broods. If Crown chooses war, Covenant's flood will sweep from Vale peaks to White Knife. But first justice here." They elaborated plan. Vale climbers scaling Eastern Tower at dawn, with ladders hidden in grain carts. Blackwood archers taking west walls. Mallister barges sealing Riverside. They would present terms publicly, unveiling North Seal. If Freys resisted, assault would be swift. Hostages secured, but subdued. Winter's last blizzard howled as forces assembled. Siege engines trundling across crusted snow. Yet hearts burned warm. Among the throngs of spears, walked smallfolk volunteers carrying torches. Mothers whose sons died at Red Wedding. Millers whose grain taxed twice by Freys. Their presence stiffened each line. On eve of March, Bryndon found Lady Anya kneeling in Riverrun's Godswood despite ice. She rose, snowflakes clinging white in hair. "For sons lost," she said. "For hope reclaimed," he answered. They clasped hands. Torches behind cast twin shadows joining upon trunks scarred bark, forming shape half fish, half falcon. At dawn, horns brayed. Columns streamed forth. Trout banners fluttering forefront, flanked by bronze falcons, seahorses, ravens, wolf standards newly sown. The Covenant host stretched horizon to horizon. Up an Eastern Tower window of Twins, Walder's steward glimpsed the tide and felt bladder loose. Within, heirs argued whether to stand or kneel. Edmure rode at head, having returned through neck in storm and darkness, cloak crusted with rime yet spirit blazing. On saddle pommel sat scroll of northern oaths. He raised his sword, and thousands answered with roar that echoed between banks. Thus began the flood of guest right. War not for conquest but for covenant. where mercy marched with vengeance, and thrift with pride. It would last past snows and into thaw, carrying Edmure toward halls of justice, through lion dens, and eventually unto dragons' dreams yet unforeseen. But in that first shining moment, on frost-white banks of Trident, with river ice cracking under dawn gold and banners billowing like wings of mighty joined creature, it felt as though time itself bowed. And above, circling against brightening sky, a falcon cried wild triumph while trout leapt below, water spraying diamond shards. In distant north, a wolf howled answer. The realm listened. The flood advanced. Ka. Snow hissed beneath thousands of boots as the Covenant host fanned across the flats before the twins. An immense crescent of steel and color, whose leading edge flickered in the dawn. Horses stamped plumes while men planted standards. The silver trout of Tully at the center. Bronze falcon of Erin to the east. Black raven of Blackwood. Seahorse of Mallister. And new-stitched gray direwolf of Stark interspersed like bright knots in a tapestry. Engineers dragged Siega towers on sled runners over crusted drifts. Smiths worked anvils slung from oaks, the clang of their hammers echoing against frozen stone. From the captured western tower, Brynden Blackfish watched the spectacle unfold, satisfaction etched deep as riverbeds in his lined face. On the eastern ramparts, Frey guards craned necks, pale as corpses. Within the main pavilion, Edmure Tully stood over the war table. Maps were pinned by river-smooth stones, and candles guttered in the cold draught. Around him clustered Lady Anya Wainwood, Lord Tito's Blackwood, Jason Mallister, Sir Lyn Corbray, Bronjean Royce, and Maester Vyman with ink-flecked quills ready to record oaths. The North's envoy, Sir Roderick Castle, older, grayer, but unbowed, had ridden through the night to join them, bringing Rickon Stark's personal device, a strip of gray wolf hide marked with fresh paw prints and blood. It lay upon the maps like a beating heart. Edmure's voice carried the hush of river ice before breakup. Aten said we deliver our terms upon the drawbridge. Walder's heirs squabble who should speak. That discord is our ally. Yet we will not enter these walls blade first unless forced. Let the realm see Covenant mercy first, steel only after. Then Lady Anya's gauntlet drummed the table once. If they stall, then the night becomes our ladder, Edmure answered. Blackfish will lead the pike and falcon companies through the flooded Sally tunnel we sound last week. Water's low enough now to wade at ebb. Corbray covers with archers on barges. Royce men raise mantlets at eastern portcullis. We keep killing swift, precise, no torch to wheat stores. We need bread as surely as victory. Corbray touched Lady Forlorn's pommel hungrily. Precision is a virtue. Still, Lady Forlorn sings loud when caged too long. He earned a curt nod from Royce. Save the loudest note for Walder. Maester Vyman cleared his throat. And the articles for trial? We must read them entire if the walls yield. Guest right violators face stripping of rank, exile beyond the wall, if they plead the king's mercy, or execution by rope if Covenant despite. Read them on the bridge, Edmure said. Frey smallfolk will listen from arrow slits. Fear may buckle stone faster than any ram. And Sam? Outside, horns sounded 3 mournful notes. Brynden signaling outer siege lines tightened. Mallister bowed his head. May the 7 mercy those who deserve it. And none for those who don't, Lady Anya finished grimly. They dispersed. Edmure lingered, gloved fingers resting on the wolf hide. Thoughts drifted to the boy in the north whose father's bones still lost in Dreadfort darkness. To Jane, his daughter, at Casterly Rock, a stranger, to Rob and Cat, and the river that swallowed them. He whispered names like prayer, then turned to face the day. From rampart walkways, the Covenant appeared a living organism. Men moving in choreographed tides, supply carts rolling to kitchens where Vale cooks melted snow for stew. Surgeons sharpening bone saws, priests of 7 erecting a makeshift sept, while northern spearmen cut weirwood branches for quiet groves. Children of nearby hamlets had followed wagons, and now wide-eyed, they watched smiths shower sparks. Edmure instructed piper bards to dance for them, turning siege into carnival of survival. This was the face he wished Walder's defenders to see. Not pillaging reavers, but guardians ascending. Midday sun glimmered off the green fork where ice floes bumped hulls of anchored barges. Corbray strode their decks, shouting adjustments. Twist scorpion arms tighter. Wax-feathered shafts, oil gear pulleys. Beneath waterline, Malister swimmers in sealskin slipped through current, measuring depth near pylons with knotted cord. A sandbar discovered yesterday offered staging for night infiltration. Above on western parapets, archers knocked but did not draw. Discipline forged by months of skirmish. As afternoon waned, blare of trumpets signaled the parley hour. Edmure rode to the midpoint of the bridge, accompanied by Lady Anya, Titos, Sir Roderick, Maester Vyman, and 2 standard-bearers carrying a white banner quartered with trout and falcon. A hush rippled across drums and anvils. The whole army seemed to hold breath. From the open gate of the east tower emerged a straggling procession. Ryman Frey in ill-fitting mail, Edwin at his side clutching a scroll, 2 septons with incense censers, and behind them, a dozen Frey crossbowmen whose quivers rattled with nerves. The old Lord Walder himself did not appear, though many eyes searched for that gaunt silhouette. They met at drawbridge center beneath creaking chains. Snow drifted lazily between. Edmure inclined his head by a hair. I stand before you, sworn by blood of trident and veil, to offer last clemency. Surrender, Lord Walder, and all conspirators to face covenant trial. Yield the eastern tower and disband your levies. In return, small folk spared, noble hostages treated gently. Line of Frey permitted holding south of the neck, under appointed castellan. Negesai inshetawa. Ryman puffed red cheeks. Pretty words, cousin, yet your banners throng like vultures. We know your mercy, same a blade you offered at Harrenhal to those left behind. Those left behind at Harrenhal chose chain and whip for riverfolk. Lady Anya interjected, eyes hard as mica. They were met, accordingly. Edwin produced the scroll. By order of His Grace King Tommen, any force arrayed in rebellion against Crown will be declared traitor. Stand down, or we loose ravens to King's Landing. Southron swords will answer. Maester Vyman accepted the scroll, broke the seal, perused. He raised gray brows. No signature from the king's hand, only wax. Quill strokes that waver as though penned aboard cart. He looked to Ryman. Forged command carries grave penalty. Ryman's jaw twitched. Walder sits in council with King's emissary now. Where? Behind those walls? Edmure asked. Then present him. Muffled shouts drifted from the gatehouse. Ryman swallowed. Our lord is indisposed. Indisposed meaning he fears the noose, Titos said. His voice resonated like drumbeat. The realm already whispers the Freys are broken. Show courage, Ryman. Bring him forth, cleanse your house. Edwin's fingers whitened on scroll. We hold against sea. Ice will claim your tents before hunger claims ours. You forget the Freys guard stores for years. Edmure gazed at them, pity warring with rage. Stores for men, perhaps, not for conscience. He lifted hand. Behind him, trumpets blared a single spiraling note. On western tower, ramparts archers raised longbows. Blackfish banners unfurled. Corbray's barges angled scorpion heads. The echo carried hush deeper than the silence preceding storm. Edmure spoke, voice ringing clear. Sunset marks final bell. If Lord Walder does not stand upon this plank at first star, the covenant enters by sword and flood. Guest right will be avenged. He turned without flourish, leading retinue back. Ryman called after him, but wind snatched words. Gates creaked shut, portcullis thundered. From arrow loops above, Frey faces flickered white. Back within command pavilion, Brynden awaited, helm tucked beneath arm. They'll not yield, he said bluntly. Old Walder clutches his walls like a miser dead centuries. I know, Edmure answered. Prepare the tunnel. Brynden nodded and strode out, barking orders. Guttermen, those lean swimmers from Saltpan's raid, gathered picks and grapples. Royce heavy infantry hefted mantlets. Corbray's archers fingered bowstrings humming low. Edmure dismissed aides, stepped into a smaller tent, where a tub of river water steamed near brazier. He washed dried sweat, scars of travel, letting heat seep into bones. In water's ripple, he saw a face leaner than that boy lured to the twins' wedding, eyes sunken but alight. He dressed deliberately in mail shirt, fine woven, surcoat of deep river blue, palder trimmed by silver embroidery, yet left throat bare. If arrow struck, so be it. Over heart he pinned small direwolf crafted of ironwood, the North's pledge. Outside dusk bled across clouds, turning them bruise purple. Covenant ranks formed as rehearsed, each company stepping from camp to silent drums. Snow-deadened clink of armor, guards along East Tower strained to distinguish shapes. Tents flickered with minimal torch to mislead watchers regarding numbers. On banks barges drifted slowly to pre-marked eddies, oar-strokes muffled in wrapped leather. Edmure met Lady Anya before the tunnel mouth, once drainage culvert, now widened by sappers. Ice crusted its rim. Below, dark waters sloshed. She clasped his wrist. "Lead true. Mountains watch. Rivers remember," he said. With them waited 30 guttermen carrying short spears and blades bound in waxed cloth. Behind followed Blackfish and 100 river pikes, shields strapped across backs. Cold bit like teeth. The moment water reached thighs, torches were doused. Only faint glow of smoldering coals in lantern boxes guided steps. Echoes of splashes reverberated against stone. The culvert angled upward after 50 yards, water thinning to trickle. They emerged in pitch underground chamber where sappers had breached wall into storeroom. Smell of mold mingled with grain. 2 guttermen crept up staircase, knelt listening. Muffled voices argued above. One returned, signaled. 3 guards. Brynden raised hand. Pikes moved. At his nod they surged up steps. Blades flashed in gloom. One startled cry strangled into gurgle, then silence. A lantern-lit, revealed corridor hung with Frey banners. Guttermen stripped enemy sigils, replaced with rolled felt to muffle footsteps. They advanced, hearts pounding in eerie hush. In kitchens beyond, cooks clattered pots oblivious. Brynden sent squad to bar that door with meat spit. Down Armory Hall they encountered 2 guards half-armored, jaws slack at sight of trout-clad soldiers. Pikes ended curiosity. Guttermen caught their bodies, eased gently. Outside ramparts, Corbre's barges loosed first volley, fiery quarrel that screamed overhead, striking outer wall parapet far from infiltration route. Flames leapt. Frey horns blared. Crossbowmen rushed to man Merlon's, eyes fixated on bright blaze. Inside, Brynden's troops slipped through gallery shadows toward central stair ascending to Lord Solar. Walder's private guard lounged outside oaken door, bored. A gutterman feigned limp and terminal cough, stumbling toward them, while their brows furrowed. Brynden's men erupted behind, spears punching mail gaps. One guard shouted. Brynden's gauntlet clamped mouth, dagger kissed throat. Door burst inward to reveal Lord Walder, not infirm, but alert, robe of sable thrown over thin nightshirt. One bony hand gripping cane tipped by iron. He squinted. Bah. Finally. I wondered when the fish would sneak. His gaze flicked across intruders. Blackfish. Still alive. How dull. Brynden's sword hovered at Walder's chin. You are taken for trial on charges of guest-right murder, treason, and conspiracy. Walder huffed, voice wheezing like bellows. Guest right, guest wrong. Kings change, customs fade. A clever man lives. Clever men bleed the same, Brynden said. Frey airs burst from antechamber behind, steel drawn. Guttermen met them. Narrow room igniting chaos. Clang of blade on beam, shriek of wounded. Walder cackled, ducking limply toward secret passage. Brynden yanked him back by collar. A dagger flew, nicked Blackfish cheek. He shoved Walder behind tapestry, bound wrists with sword belt. Downstairs confusion swelled. Arrows thudded into shutters. Catapults from Covenant siege engines began hurling clay pots of lime over outer walls. In courtyard, Frey soldiers shouted conflicting orders, some to man ballistae, others to assemble before gate. Royce mantlets rammed outer portcullis in rhythm. Above, flaming quarrels zipped, Snow exploded into steam. Within Solar Corridor, Edmure's group fought upward from storerooms. Steel rang. Sir Roderick's axe split helmets. Tito's raven wing cloak swirled as he loosed a yard-long shaft point-blank into Surgeon's throat. They breached one last door to find Brynden holding Walder by scruff. Edmure's heart jolted at sight. The architect of betrayal wrinkled and snarling. Walder spat. Pretty kinslayer come to finish feast? His eyes slid to Edmure's bare throat. No armor over honor, boy. Edmure wiped blood from blade tip onto Walder's robe. Honor cannot be armored. He signaled guttermen. Bind ankles. Gag. They gagged him with strip torn from his sable sleeve. His watery eyes glinted malevolence, but flickered fear when rope bit. A horn outside sounded 4 notes. Corbray signaled the eastern gate was breached. Brynden jerked head. Time to clean hall. They half-dragged Walder down steps. Smoke drifted into corridors from courtyard fires, where lime blasts ignited hay bales. Frey resistance splintered once their patriarch vanished. Junior officers hesitated, some throwing down arms. Ryman Frey attempted rally by stable, but Royce heavy infantry thundered through archway, maces smashing. Ryman fell beneath hooves, visor peeled away like tin. Edwin fled toward Sept, only to collide with Piper Spearman. Captured, he begged loudly for Kingsguard, but found only rough rope. Atop gatehouse, Edmure raised horn to lips. Blew single long note. Covenant soldiers flooding yard froze, swords halfway, and turned. They saw Walder Frey dragged across slushy mud, hands bound, gag pulling cheeks. A sigh went through ranks, like river's first spring breath. Then cheers roared, ramming heavens. Edmure climbed parapet, hauled Walder beside, forced him to face assembled host across moat. He yanked gag long enough for words. "People of Riverlands and Vale," Edmure shouted, voice booming. "Guest Wright's murderer stands captured. Let his trial be witness. No oath-breaker escapes river justice." Walder snapped. "I am Lord of the Crossing. You will hang before me." The gag silenced him again. Arrows from West Bank soared overhead, lighting sky with torch arrows. They landed on inner yard stacks of pitch, but bucket lines already formed. Night deepened purple. Snowflakes drifted again. Edmure ordered prisoners corralled into chapel under guard. Small folk spared, given bread. Guttermen dragged bodies to courtyard for tagging by mesters. Corbray's archers patrolled walls, singing Vale war hymns. Everywhere, Edmure walked torches, parted ranks of kneeling soldiers, saluting. In the captured raid hall, hearths were stoked high for prisoners to ward frost. Brynden convened Covenant lords around high table. Maester Vyman placed scrolls. Charges, witness accounts, precedents in faith doctrine. Lady Anya presided as impartial chair. Walder sat bound to oaken chair, gag removed but guards at shoulders. His remaining heirs lined benches, iron collars chained. Vyman cleared throat. Under Covenant articles, defendant may speak or remain silent. Counsel may be provided if requested from among peers. Walder spat phlegm. "Peers, butchers all. I demand trial by King's Court." Anya's eyes gleamed. "King's Court resides 600 leagues south, and you refused summons thrice. Realm begs closure. You will heed." "Day." Witnesses called. An arrow-wounded Goodbrook lad who described fathers hanging after refusing Frey harvest tax. A septa from Red Wine Pass who recounted groom stabbed across guest table. A cook who poured wine at Red Wedding, trembling as she described screams behind doors. Edmure spoke last, voice even, recounting blood-choked water where Catelyn died, his own chains. The hush inside Great Hall deepened, until only fire crackle, and Walder's labored breathing audible. When evidence laid, Lady Anya asked counsel. Jason Mallister stood. Guilt proven. Sentence: death by hanging for Walder. Heirs exiled beyond wall. Holdings under Covenant steward. Titos seconded. Brynden added clause. Small folk employed by Freys kept on. No tithe for 3 harvests. Vote unanimous, save Corbray, who requested beheading to appease Lady Forlorn. He was overruled, but grin remained. Walder was lifted, still railing, and led to courtyard where gallows improvised from stable beam. Snow fell thicker now, muffling murmur of myriad watchers. Men, women, orphans. Vale knights. Edmure mounted platform, reading sentence. Walder's eyes flicked wide at crowd. Perhaps for first time he understood weight of lives crushed for coin. He began to speak. I did only as others. But rope slid over neck. Edmure looked skyward. For the crimes of treachery, butcher's feast, guest right broken, I, Edmure of House Tully, Lord Paramount of Trident, in union with Vale and North, sentence you to hang by the neck until dead. He kicked lever himself. Wood creaked. Walder's body jerked. Snowflakes settled on bald scalp. A long exhale rose from crowd. Some sob. Some sigh of relief. Then silence respectful. Edmure's heart hammered, but felt lighter. Next dawn, banners changed. The twins' towers flew quartered sigil. Trout entwined with falcon, backdropped by dire wolf rampant. Covenant soldiers replaced Frey pickets. Tollhouse reopened under Piper Steward, charging half-rate to small folk, quarter to orphans. Vale engineers repaired floodgates, ensuring river kept lapping, but not drowning cellars. Small folk came cautiously, offering eggs, cheese. Soup kitchens fed them. Edmure wrote ravens. To King's Landing informing of lawful trial under faith tenets. To Winterfell where Rickon resided now, under Manderley guard. To White Harbor bearing thanks. To Dorne stating covenant upheld guest right, as Dorne did by ancient Rhoynar custom. He invited Dornish observers. Cersei's reply arrived 1 week later, borne by Raven with royal seal. It dripped venom. You usurp crown's justice, release captives and disband unlawful league or face king's wrath. Edmure read aloud to Covenant Council. Laughter erupted. Even stoic Royce chuckled. Yet, Edmure cautioned. A cornered lion leaps. We must anticipate claws, perhaps sell sales, perhaps coin-buying Stormland swords. Mallister proposed plan. Expand Lannisport blockade, cutting gold flow. Lady Anya suggested dispatching envoys to Ironbank of Bravos, explaining Covenant upheld contracts, buried by Crown default. Ironbank loved paid debts. Tito's offered ravens to Mother House of Mercy in Old Town, encouraging scholars to condemn Red Wedding as blasphemy. Faith thus pressured King. While politics simmered, Edmure directed rebuilding. Guttermen became masons patching breached walls. Northern lumber convoys drifted down rivers freed from ice, delivering cedar rafts. Children of Riverlands once barefoot now toted new boots, courtesy of Vale quartermasters. Each small kindness welded Union tighter. Mid-spring snows melted. Rivers swelled but gates open, now channeled flow safely. Farmers sowed barley again. Blackwood archers patrolled roads, where travelers soon walked unmolested. A bard from Derry composed ballad. The flood of guest right, spreading south on minstrel strings, praising trout and falcon and wolf. Taverns in King's Landing hummed tune, each chorus a thorn in Cersei's pride. Word reached that the Golden Company, long across narrow sea, had been approached by crown envoys promising debts repaid if they landed in Westerlands. Edmure met counsel. Bravosi coin might lure sellswards, he admitted. But coin-starved Lannisters cannot pay full company. And if Ironbank denies loan, sellswards go to highest honest bidder. Letters thus sped to Bravos gifting first repayment of Crown's outstanding debt, via Riverlands grain shipments credited against old loans. Ironbank scribed smiled, quills scratched. In early summer, Jaime Lannister rode north again under peace banner, a single companion beside, Brienne of Tarth, her armor patched. They requested audience at Twins' courtyard. Edmure received them flanked by Brynden and Anya. Jaime looked thinner, lines grooved around eyes. Brienne stood silent yet unyielding. Jaime spoke without preamble. The Queen Regent is arrested by faith militant, he said, surprising many. The High Septon proclaims realm, must atone for Red Wedding. King Tommen requests negotiation to end blockade, restore trade, and integrate Covenant into royal peace under mutual recognition. Edmure absorbed shock. And Walder is already hanged. Do you accept that judgment? Amy nodded slowly. The faith has ruled Guestright sacred. Your sentence stands. Lady Anya's eyebrow arched. So Crown seeks alliance, not submission. On what terms? See it on Small Council for Covenant, Jaime replied. Full pardons for acts committed in war, reciprocal toll concessions on trade with Westerlands, restoration of Riverlands titles seized by Iron Throne, and return of your daughter from Casterly Rock. Edmure's breath caught. Council murmured. Bryndon's eyes softened. Jaime continued. In return, you lift blockade, send host home, and proclaim fealty to King Tommen. Anya crossed arms. We already swore to protect, not rebel. Fealty may be rendered if Crown binds itself to same Guestright clause. Agreed, Jaime said. The High Septon insists. Negotiations lasted 10 days. Terms hammered. Frey holdings redistributed. Lordship of the Crossing awarded to House Blackwood as wardens until Stark Tully, heir, matured. Casterly Rock to repay grain debt over 10 years. Crown to recognize Northern independence under Stark until Boy King of North reached age. Vale gained perpetual exemption from royal levies outside realm defense. Tolls set across Trident, fixed by Joint Court of Mallister. Tully, Aaron. Edmure met his daughter, little Winifred. Within Solar of Twins. Golden curls, shy smile, eyes of his lost Rosalind. He wept openly. Brienne and Jaime standing aside. Promise of quieter future, twined with memory of blood. He vowed never allow another red wedding. On bright midsummer day, Edmure rode to Riverrun accompanied by Covenant lords and Jaime, as envoy. In the Godswood, before Old Weirwood and Septon, and Maester, he placed hand on chilled stone and swore anew. I, Edmure of House Tully, pledge hearth and harvest, to realmed peace, bound by Guestright, upheld by Covenant of River, Mountain and Wolf. Jaime recited King Tommen's acceptance. Lady Anya, Titos, Royce likewise pledged. A raven streaked skyward bearing scroll to Old Town. Another to Winterfell where Rickon rehearsed rule. Years would pass before realm healed. Many swords yet to be beaten into plowshares. But that day, water murmured gentle along river-run walls, carrying whispered refrain. Vows kept, river mended. Children chased trout-shaped kites across flowering ramparts. In remote, eerie peaks, bells rang. Along Green Fork, peasants crossed bridge beneath new carved arch, depicting falcon wing shielding trout, direwolf leaping above, a monument to flood that cleansed. And at sunset, Edmure stood alone upon parapet, where once he fretted over broken Riverlands. Fields stretched green, dotted by tents of demobilizing armies turning toward home. Smoke from forges no longer meant weapons but plows. Below, Winifred laughed chasing a pup, watched by Rosalind's sister Mariah, released from Frey's shadow. Edmure breathed deep. River air carried scent of future. Loam, pine, distant sea salt. The river would always flow, sometimes raging, sometimes gentle. Yet now its banks were guarded by hearts knit in covenant, roots intertwined across Vale cliffs and northern snows. Whatever storms Crown or Ironborn or Golden Dragons might yet unleash, Edmure knew this truth. So long as Guestright held, so long as Fish and Falcon and Wolf remembered the price of forgetfulness, the Seven Kingdoms possessed a spine unbroken. Night deepened, stars blotting purple vault. He thought of Robb, the boy king, the wolf who'd trusted honor, of Cat's steadfast gaze, of every name inscribed in Covenant ledgers. He lifted head, whispered. We did not forget. Wind answered, ruffling banners atop towers now reborn. Somewhere a heron cried, River's eternal witness. Edmure smiled not with triumph but calm. The story would carry onward, carried by water, by wind, by song. Yet tonight its current slid tranquil beneath silvered moon, carrying the Riverlands, the Vale, and the North together into dawn.